I have transported back into the early 2000s because apparently my hair,
I've never been on live television before.
Apparently my hair decides now it wants to do this like swoop thing and move my part over to the side and cowlick it. So like if I'm doing this in the video, I really apologize, but I just don't know. I don't know what's happening here. What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and click that subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. But if you're not new here and you've been following me on YouTube and Instagram, you probably already know that for the last 12 to 13 weeks, I've been in what I like to call a growing phase. And with that, I've put on about 4.5 pounds. And a lot of people have been commenting and asking questions and talking about like, what do I need to eat to build muscle? How do I make sure I'm eating enough to build muscle? And so today's topic of the day is how much do you really need to eat in order to gain muscle? I'm gonna try to make this video as to the point, concise as I possibly can, but just know that as with every single thing in the fitness and nutrition space, a lot of it is very nuanced and it's gonna depend. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. So just make sure that you're not looking at this as like a one size fits all and take what I'm saying and kind of see how it can apply to you. Before I get on into this video, if you have not seen the video that I made a couple years ago titled The Truth About Building Muscle, go watch that one. It's one of the most watched videos on my channel. I talk so much about the process of building muscle and myths and all types of things that you might find really helpful. So check that one out if you haven't seen it. But let's get on into what we're talking about today, which is eating to grow. And there's no way around this, no matter what way you look at it. In order to build new muscle mass, you have to be eating in a caloric surplus, some type of caloric surplus. If you don't know what that means, a caloric surplus is when you are taking in more food calorically than you are expending. So let's say, for example, I am 5'2", 125. If I burn 2,100 calories a day with my regular exercise activity and all the things that make that up, along with non-exercise activity, all that stuff, I need to be eating above 2,100 calories in order to build mass. How much of a caloric surplus depends on a few things. The first being your ultimate goal. So if you're someone who doesn't really care about body composition, you don't really have a time frame, you just want to eat as much as possible, obviously you have a lot more wiggle room to have a larger surplus versus, let's say, someone who is trying to put on like 5 pounds. They have kind of like a longer time frame to do it. They're trying to be more cognizant of their body composition during this time. This is also known as a lean bulk, which I hate because it doesn't really exist. It kind of just depends on what your ultimate goal is and your own body's individual biometrics, how tall you are, your age, your hormones, your activity level, what your current body statistics and your current body fat looks like. There's a lot of different things that's gonna change how much of a surplus you should be in. So like I said in the beginning, there is no one size fits all. Sure, can you eat in a 500 calorie surplus and build mass? Absolutely. Can anybody do that? Absolutely. It doesn't mean that it's the right way to do it for you though. So for me personally, I like to start any type of growing phase with around a 250 calorie surplus. This is just me. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I find that for most of my female clients, going anywhere from like 100 to 300 calories is usually a safe place to start, but it's going to depend on, like I said, how comfortable you are with bulking, how aggressive you want to be with it, and how much you're trying to keep your body composition in mind throughout this process. So with that, the first thing that you need to know is how much you are currently burning per day. Obviously, you can wear a smart fitness watch. It's not going to be 100% accurate. I'm linking a study in the description box about how accurate Fitbits are. But the best way, in my opinion, and I've talked about this so many times on my channel, the best way to do this is to track your current intake as meticulously as possible along with your current weight and watch that for a set period of time. I always say like 3 to 4 weeks, and get an idea for how your body fluctuates, what you're eating. You can even make a spreadsheet if you want and kind of see those changes. So you know, let's say if you're starting at 125 and you're eating, 2,000 calories, and the average is 2,000 calories and you're not gaining and you're not losing, then you know that you found your maintenance. If you're losing, obviously you're in a deficit, and if you're gaining, then you're in a surplus. So the first thing, the baseline, no matter if you're a beginner, advanced, if you have no idea where to start, the first thing that you need to do is figure out your maintenance. Now, when it comes to the traditional split, a lot of people ask me this question, well, if there's no, you know, one size fits all, what about the macro split? I hear this percentage and this percentage is better for building muscle. And there are some truths to that, again, linking another study about the bodybuilding split of macronutrient breakdowns. And if you are a beginner and don't know what macronutrients are, that's essentially your 3 protein, carbs, and fats. A lot of old school traditional bodybuilders will say that around 50% of your total daily intake should come from carbohydrates, 30% from protein, and 20% from fat. If you have no idea where to start and you're looking for like a rough estimate, sure, this is a great place that you can start. But what you do need to know is the importance of all 3. So your protein intake, your proteins are essentially the building blocks of your muscle, right? The amino acids make up all of the amazing things that help your body build muscle mass. But carbohydrates are super, super important for not only your energy and your workouts, which obviously then translates over into you being able to output more, which means you're increasing your intensity load, which means you're increasing your ability to build muscle mass. And then of course, your fats are for optimal hormone levels, digestion, energy levels, satiety during the day, and things like that. There's obviously like the old generic saying, 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein, start there. And then the rest comes from carbs and fats, and you can split that up however you see fit. But like I was just saying, a lot of old school bodybuilders, and obviously research shows with carbohydrates, having a diet higher in carbohydrates and lower in fats will help optimize your body's muscle building potential. Of course, that doesn't mean it's going to be right for everyone, but if you're just looking for a place to start, you can at least start with your protein amount and then work your way from there. Also, as a side note with the protein, in a building phase, you can kind of get away with eating more protein than you normally would. Obviously, you don't need to go crazy and do like 50 to 100 grams over your current body weight, but I will say, just from personal experience and what I've seen with clients, I like to eat anywhere from like 10 to 15 grams over my current body weight with protein. And this is just for a couple reasons. One is to help with satiety during the day, of course, because protein will keep you fuller longer. Also has the highest thermic effect when it comes to your body digesting. So anything higher in protein, your body's going to burn more calories digesting than it would carbs or fats, which helps with like the overall thermic effect of food during the day, which does contribute to your total daily energy expenditure. And then just because you're trying to build muscle, right? So the protein is the building blocks of muscle, which is why it's important to make sure that you're not neglecting it. Now, the next most frequently asked question that I get is, how long do I bulk for? And I will say that for my females, when they are kind of approaching the 12 to 13 week mark, which is where I am right now, you're starting to see the scale go up. You maybe like are starting to see some body composition changes. And a lot of women, in my experience, we tend to freak out. And what will happen is they'll see that and then they'll immediately turn around and want to go into a deficit because they're panicking about the scale going up. This is kind of a 2-part answer. The first is, you don't want to cut it too short. And this is because you're just not going to build significant muscle mass in like 6 to 8 weeks. So don't get to that point where you're starting to see the scale go up, even 12 to 13 weeks, and then be like, oh my gosh, no, I need to cut again, and immediately go into a cut, because you're not going to get that long lasting muscle that you're working really hard to build. And with the total length, this is again going to depend on your individual goals. So like if you have something that you're working towards that you want to cut for later on down the line, you might want to take like 4 to 6 months and spend that in a growing phase, and then go down to maintenance and then cut. So I like to tell people to whatever it is that you're trying to cut for, or look leaner, look more jacked, whatever it is, work backwards from that. But you do want to give yourself plenty of time, right? So I started my growing phase in December, and I'm not going to start going back down towards maintenance until the end of May. So really almost 6 months of true growing is optimal in my opinion. If you can do it for longer, that's amazing. And I've also talked about this in previous videos. The benefits of staying around maintenance or slightly above is honestly so underrated. And I feel like the majority of people, with the exception of like super beginners. And I mean, I don't know, I'd argue to say a lot of beginners would benefit from this too, but a lot of people would benefit simply from just eating around their maintenance and strength training and just doing that consistently. Nobody wants to do that. That was just boring. And with that, you kind of have to think about the three main aspects of building muscle, right? You have your training, you have your recovery, and then you have your diet. And you can't just focus on one of them and expect yourself to gain muscle. Like for example, you can't just eat in a surplus and not train, or especially not weight train, and think that you're going to build muscle. And this is where like the trifecta kind of comes into play, because you do need all three of those. And conversely, you can't overtrain, constantly be weight training 6-7 days a week, burning yourself out, sleeping like shit, and expect to gain muscle. So you really have to prioritize all three of these things. That's the best way that you're going to see the results that you want when it comes to muscle building. But the diet portion, which is the topic of this video, the diet portion is very, very important. One of the biggest myths that I see with the diet portion specifically of this are the things, whether it's coaches, websites, diets, whatever, that advertise muscle building foods. Eat this to build muscle. Something on this diet to grow muscle. And at the end of the day, any food, I'm gonna put an asterisk, in moderation, is going to either support or hinder your muscle growth depending on whether or not you're in a surplus, period. Like I said at the beginning of this video, if you are not in a surplus and you are not optimizing protein, you're not training to support those goals, and you're not recovering, you're just not going to build muscle. So there is no like magic food or magic diet that's going to optimize your muscle building properties. It's literally just going to come down to being in a surplus and balancing those three things. So to sum up, in today's video, the first thing that you're going to want to do is figure out your maintenance. And this is where you're going to track everything for an extended period of time. Make sure you're monitoring your weight so you know how much you're accurately taking in to where your weight does not go up or go down and it stays consistent. Then from there, you can start on the lower end with 150. You can go on the higher end of 350. Additional calories per day to put yourself into a caloric surplus. And then how you choose to split up your macronutrients is going to be up to you, maybe a coach. You can reach out to a nutrition coach that's certified, hopefully, and help you figure out what would be the best split for you. I've also recently been playing around with ranges depending on the type of training day that I'm having. So for example, on a training day where I know my output is really high, like all lower body, I have like over 10,000 steps, I'm gonna make sure that on that day is the highest end of my range of calories, so closer to like 2,400, 2,500, versus a rest day where I'm not doing so much, I can keep that on the lower end of my surplus around 2,100 to 2,200. So that's a little bit more advanced, but as long as you're starting in some sort of surplus, that's going to be the next step. And then prioritizing your protein. So making sure, just as a general rule of thumb, you're eating 1 gram per pound of body weight or lean body mass. Again, depending, because there are going to be some people who don't necessarily fit into that like calculated percentage. For example, if you do have a high body mass index and you're looking to lose over 100 pounds, you're not going to want to be eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So there are some outliers there, but that's a good starting place for most people. And then making sure that you have a training program, resistance-based, strength-based, that's prioritizing progressive overload, hypertrophy, strength training in general, and then recovery, of course. So if you're not sleeping, you're not allowing your body to build and recover and strengthen and grow those muscles. So that is the overall consensus of how much that you need to eat. I hope this was helpful. Like I always say, you know it's not black and white, so if you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, you can apply for coaching with blackironnutrition.com. I do have a wait list, but if you get on the wait list, it moves kind of quickly. I've seen like maybe 4 to 6 weeks. So you could start your growing season with me in 4 to 6 weeks if you would like. But that is it. That is the end of this video. I hope that it was helpful. All the studies that I reference will be in the description box, and let's go build some muscle. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.